Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to The Grid, brought to you by Kelby One. I am Corey Barker, and I'm joined today by a special guest, Mr. Vanelli. You only need to know him by one name, and that is Vanelli. What's going on, man?
Hey, he's doing great.
Good, man.
Doing
How you
great.
doing?
I'm so glad to be here with you.
Yeah, good stuff. How you been?
Real good.
You been
Traveling
busy?
a lot.
Busy, yeah.
Real busy.
Yes. Well, we are here to talk about one of our favorite events of all time, of course, and that is, of course, Photoshop World. And, you know, Vanelli and we've been going for what, past 10?
Oh, God. Well,
I don't know how many years now.
Yeah, I started in 1999.
Yeah.
So
I went to, and the 2000 was the first one I went to. So roughly we've been going to Photoshop World every year for that long. So it's certainly one of our...
Yeah, twice a year for most of them.
Exactly. I've lost count how many I've actually been to. But we're here today to talk about Photoshop World. Well, Scott is actually out in New York doing a seminar today. Him and Brad are up there today doing a seminar. So we thought we'd fill in and talk to you guys about Photoshop World and how cool it is, not to mention answer any questions you might have. If you've never been or you've been there before and you're not sure if you want to go and you just have questions about certain things, we're here to answer those. And our moderator, Jen, is right over there. Hi, Jen. She's right over there to take a look at your questions, and we're going to answer them right here on the show if we like them. If we don't like your questions, we just throw them out and never mention you again. So don't give us any sad, boring questions. Anyway, all right. So the event, of course, is in July this year. We know we have to go from one of the hottest months, August, to a hotter month in July because it's the desert. So it is in July.
We are inside the entire time.
True.
So that's the funny part.
The funny thing is, I don't think, the moment I arrive in Vegas, I don't think I set foot outdoors until I leave. You know, I purposely will stay inside for the entire event. And the funny thing is about Vegas, you can do that. You can travel from one end of the strip practically to the other and never go outdoors. They're all connected, so it's really cool that way.
Yeah, and there's so many different things to do while you're inside, too.
Exactly, yeah. So you never want to go outside, you know, it's just you don't want to. So the event is, of course, in July. It's July 19th to the 21st, and there are, of course, optional pre-conference sessions, in-depth workshops that are on the day before, which is Monday, July 18th. So a lot of good pre-cons this year. We've got some new ones, actually. Of course, we've got, who do we have here? We got Daniel Gregory. My gosh. Yeah. Daniel Gregory. If you don't know who Daniel Gregory is, one of the most inspiring guys out there, Seattle-based photographer. He's going to be there, and he's doing a pre-con on, where is it? I have my notes, on hands-on portfolio prep. This is a great guy to learn this kind of stuff from. And, of course, we've got Kaylee Greer, the dog photographer, yeah. We had her on the grid not too long ago. She's going to be doing a pre-con as well. And, of course, some familiar faces. You're going to see Moose Peterson. He's doing a pre-con that starts at 4 a.m. on pre-con day.
It's not going to be hot then.
So if you really want to get up at 4 a.m. in Vegas, who's up at 4 a.m. in Vegas? I'm not going to say who's up at 4 a.m. in Vegas, but if you want to get up and go do a photo shoot or a pre-conference with Moose, by all means. So he's doing that, and that is a Red Rock landscape shoot. So the good thing about being in the desert is that sunrise shoots are beautiful.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so
amazing.
That is the good part about that. Unfortunately, the bad part is you have to get up at 3 or whatever to get ready.
Yeah, but especially with Moose going out to the desert like that, Red Rock Canyon. Well, you've been to Red Rock, and that's part of going to Photoshop World is incredible because you could actually do a lot of these things in between.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So so you go a day earlier or a day later, and then you get to go out to an incredible place like that. And once you watch that sunrise come up, it's absolutely amazing.
Where else are you going to see a moose in the desert anyway? So. Of course, we've got other workshops. Be sure to check out the website. Of course, the website is PhotoshopWorld.com. And Russell Brown's got a workshop out there as well.
He's always entertaining.
Yeah, it's called Le Cirque Photographique, if I'm reading that right. Anyway, it's Russell. It's always good, so it's going to be sure to check that out, too. Now, as I mentioned, the site is live. It's PhotoshopWorld.com. It literally went up 20 seconds ago. It just went live when the show opened. No, I'm kidding. It did go up today. It's live. You can register for the event. There it is right there, and you can scroll through and get all the information you need. There is the list of instructors there. And look, where am I at?
View all.
So it's there. I'm there. There it is. Okay. All right. So there's, of course, the instructors. Go there and find out now. And, of course, as I said, you can register for the event and get all that information there, of course, PhotoshopWorld.com. Now, let's go and talk again about instructors. We kind of mentioned a few new names in the pre-cons, but there are new instructors for the event all around. Of course, Daniel Gregory. We got Christy Shirk, the mermaid photographer. She's really cool. She was on the grid not too long ago as well. She's a really good person to have there. Dave Clayton. Our buddy across the pond.
I just saw him not too long ago.
Yeah, no, he was actually, Dave, when he was here filming some InDesign classes, he actually stayed at my house. He hung out at the house for a little while. So he's actually an instructor, and he's going to be there along with our other buddy, Glenn Dewis. So if you know Glenn and Dave, they're going to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, Kaylee Greer and Stacey Pearsall is going to be there as well. If you don't
Yeah, you know what's neat is over the years they constantly change instructors. I mean, the first time I met you, right, it was what was it, the Star Trek theme?
Oh yeah,
right. It was first, and honestly. At first, I thought, oh, God, okay, who's this new guy coming in? He's going to be teaching graphics. Let's see this stuff. And I sat in on one of your classes, and I was just floored.
I was scared to death the first. My very first Photoshop World teaching was Boston.
Yep.
And first of all, I was in awe of being in Boston because I'd never been there before. Then I was just the pressure of doing Photoshop World. But I had a blast, and I've had a blast ever since. And it was one of my favorite events to go to before I was an instructor, and still is. And it's a lot of fun. And that's the great thing about it is it's a fun networking event. It's like I said, the last couple times I was an attendee at Photoshop World, I wasn't really there learning much. I'd already gotten pretty much what I was going to get out of everyone that I wanted to learn from there. I was there just to network and get my name around. I was talking to vendors in the expo and other people like that and just get my name around there. And it's paid off. I've made a lot of really good connections and relationships.
Yeah, and that's something I've talked a lot about. A lot of my friends who've gone to Photoshop World as long as I have, Judy, for God's sake. I mean, she's... I've gone to every Photoshop World except for one. She's gone to every Photoshop World except for 3.
Oh, wow.
And so people keep asking us, why do we keep going back again and again? And it's simple, it's the networking part. Now, if you're an experienced photographer, you've been through it many times, it's great because, we're friends, but before we were friends, I remember just sitting down and there you were, at, I think it was Eye Candy or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Eye Candy.
Yep. And so I sat down with you and just said,
I'm not even going to say what that is. You'll have to go to the event to find out what Eye Candy is.
But it was neat because I just got done watching one of your classes and then I asked you questions.
Yeah.
And you sat there graciously and just said, well, this is how I came up with this concept.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. So you have a photographer meshed with an incredible graphic artist, and it was so cool that we could sit there and collaborate on things.
Yeah, so, and that's the great thing about it is the social aspect. And Eye Candy, it's actually a bar. It's not a strip club, as you might be thinking. Because you hear Eye Candy and think Vegas, and you're like, well, no. It's actually just a lounge in the hotel. We actually, a lot of attendees and instructors end up there, even after hours, and just just talk about different things. Like he's talking about, you get photographers and designers and artists in there talking and share and mix ideas. I've pulled a lot of really good stuff talking to photographers and employ it in my own work. So it's really a lot of great stuff in that. Now, back to talking about instructors. We've talked about a few new ones. Of course, there's going to be the old veterans there, like myself, Joe McNally, Glenn, as I mentioned, Jay Maisel. Jay!
We all love Jay.
Jay's awesome. Peter Hurley. What can you say about Peter? There's not enough you can say. Of course, Lindsay Adler, Mr. Larry Becker, Dave Black.
Oh, and let's not forget.
What?
Corey.
Well, I did say, I actually said my name first.
Oh, you did?
So I did that on purpose. Anyway, so of course Vanelli will be there too. So many of us, we're gonna be having a great time. So again, the event is in Las Vegas, if we haven't been clear on that point yet.
Yeah.
Now, where is it at? It's actually at the Mandalay Bay Convention Center in Las Vegas, and that's 3950 Las Vegas Boulevard, Las Vegas, Nevada. All right. Which is directly...
It's amazing you remember that address.
Actually, I didn't. It's right there on the property.
Oh.
Okay. It's directly connected to the Mandalay Bay because, all of it's connected. Again, the convention center is right connected to the hotel, so everything's right there. You never have to go outdoors. So if you are deathly afraid of the sun, no problem.
But now, this year they're actually keeping it more condensed, right?
Yes, they are. Of course, you're going to have all the pre-con sessions and the sessions like you remember and like that. And there's going to be this kind of like a vendor pavilion where they're going to have a lot of people where you can get more intimately talking to the vendors and learn more about their product and what they offer and everything like that. So it's really going to be kind of a different approach to the way things are done, and really get you more in touch with those vendors. That's going to be a really exciting aspect of it as well. So again, we mentioned the site, so you want to check out the pricing page for all the ticket prices and special discounts. Early bird discount registration deadline is June 10th. Say it with me, everyone. June 10th. Not July 10th. You can, of course, save $100 on the registration price by registering for that. Alumni get 50% off the conference registration. Cannot be combined with, here's the legal part. Cannot be combined with any other discounts, including the Kelby One member discount. Kelby One, I don't know why I have to do that. So yes, of course, Kelby One members get $100 off the conference registration by that deadline. Cannot be combined with any other discounts, including the alumni discount. So if you're alumni, I don't know. Go read it. I've lost my place on the page. All right, but they do offer we are offering one-day passes for $2.99 before June 11th. Now, after June 11th, we offer one-day passes for $3.49. Now, this just gives you one-day access to all the events going on at that Photoshop World that day. So if you see a particular day of classes or whatever like that you want to just go to that particular day, you can certainly do that. So be sure to check that out as well. Now, when does it all start?
You said July.
It all starts. It's
19th.
No, you've got, of course, pre-con day, where you have all the in-depth workshops, and then conference day starts on Tuesday, July 19th. Starts at 10 a.m. is the opening keynote. And you definitely don't want to miss the keynote if you're at Photoshop World. I have so many people tell me, I didn't make it to the keynote, I was drinking too much the night before. Now, on Monday night, try not to drink and party so much, because you definitely want to make it to the keynote. It's one of the funnest things there. Not just for the information. There's usually a keynote by Adobe and such like that, but there's always a fun movie that really kind of kicks off the conference, to set off and it really kind of
sets the tone.
Sets the tone for it and lets you know how fun it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's not just gloomy, production conference or anything like that where you're at.
And later on, I'll show you some of the pictures we have from some of the keynotes.
Yes, we've got many memories to share.
Amazing.
Of course, that we do that as well. And one of the things that Vanelli's gotten famous for being a part of at Photoshop World is, of course, Midnight Madness. And that was always one of my favorite things about Photoshop World, was because it was just a lot of silly fun. It's a lot of it's very serious training and learning, which is that of course is a lot of fun and inspiring. But there are moments when you just want to kick it, just kind of have some fun with it and everything like that. And Midnight Madness is always the night that it's the last night, second to the last night of the event, I believe. Or no, it's the last night of the event. But what he always does, it starts at like 10. And they really should call it. Call it Midnight Tenness instead of Midnight Madness.
In the old days, it used to start at midnight.
It did. It did start at midnight back in the early days.
And the problem with that, remember Felix?
Yeah.
And so here it starts at midnight. It didn't get over with until like 2 in the morning.
Yeah. And then everybody would want to go out and get something to eat afterwards.
Yeah. Or I took Felix on a photo shoot.
Yeah.
And poor Felix the next morning at 8:30 the next morning, he had to teach a class.
Yeah.
And he wasn't feeling too good. So.
It's no fun for those of us that have to teach a class the next morning. But what I was getting at is it starts at 10 on the evening, but prior to that, people tend to line up and want to get in there pretty early. So who warms up the crowd out in the hallway? This guy right here. The crazy games he does out there is just insane. We'll get to those pictures in a minute, but he really gets the crowd riled up, almost to the point where it's disappointing they get in and they see help. No, I'm just kidding. No.
They have a blast.
But no, they do have a blast, and he really gets the crowd warmed up, and then the event kicks off quite well. So, and it's certainly a lot of fun. So now
it's neat that you talked about the pre-midnight madness, we called it. A lot of the vendors help out. I know Hunt's, Hoodman, a lot of those guys, they gave away. I mean, one year Hunt's gave away almost $4,000 worth of gift cards. They gave away. We get a lot of high school kids and college kids coming to these.
Yeah.
And the Midnight Madness, what that gets to do for people is everyone gets to have fun and relax, and there's no stress and no pressure of learning.
Yeah.
They just get. Well, if I had hair, they could put their hair down and just have a great time.
Yeah, by the time Midnight Madness comes around, you're already 3 days in the event, actually, if you include pre-con day, and you really just want to just cut loose and just kind of have some fun with it. And who better to do that with a whole bunch of people that you're there for the same reason? You'll have shared interests. It's like a room full of nerds. Photoshop and photography nerds, if you will. So what do Photoshop and photography nerds do for fun? Come and find out. Anyway. We'll get to the pictures in a moment. So let's get back to talking about the details. Now, the hotel. As usual, we have special rates at the Mandalay Bay Resort for attendees. Now, if you want to go to the website, you can go to photoshop.com/travel, and you can find out information on the hotel and get special rates as a Photoshop World attendee for the hotel. And you definitely want to stay at the show hotel, because you never know. You just might run into one of us in the elevator, and that's happened numerous times. I can't tell you how many times people will just say, "Hey, I love your stuff." Of course, when you're in an elevator trapped with someone, you don't know how to think. They always end up being really nice.
It's interesting. I do talk to people a lot about, could you stay at another hotel and it's cheaper? Yes, you could. But when you do that, you lose that closeness with each other. So imagine like you said, you're sitting down, and Kabasi is a good friend of mine who'll be there. We have a little secret spot we have, and a lot of people have learned where that secret spot is. So they'll come and join us and just sit with us and ask us a bunch of questions. And a lot of times, if you're walking by, we'll have you to come over, and a lot of the attendees will just sit, at all hours of the night, just asking a bunch of questions. So the host hotel is extremely important if you're going to stay. If you're going to go to Photoshop World, you should stay at the host hotel.
Yeah, exactly. And You could stay, yeah, like you said, you could stay at another hotel, and it's that removal from the event, not just attending the event itself, but just being in the proximity of the things that are going on, ancillary to the event. I'll use a big word there if I will.
I saw that one.
Ancillary, however you say it. Anyway, but all right, let's do this. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back. We're going to talk more about Photoshop World and some of the cool stuff and some of the funny moments we've had at Photoshop Worlds in past years. So stay with us right here on the grid.
Where can you get the world's best photography, Photoshop, and Lightroom training? Where can you get personal attention and unlimited access to the world's top instructors? Where can you get hands-on live shoots and workshops? Where can you get 3 non-stop days of networking and Vegas excitement? Photoshop World in Vegas. Photoshop World. Sign up today.
Hi everybody, Scott Kelby here, and I want to invite you to watch my brand new class. It's called Creating Beautiful Wedding Albums in Lightroom. I'm going to show you the whole process from start to finish, but I think what makes this class really valuable for wedding photographers is the design part. It's the beautiful part. It's making the album look great. Having your bride and groom just open it and just go, wow. That's what this class is all about. You're going to learn lots of design tips, layout tips, and it's all right in Lightroom ready for you to do. The class is right here exclusively at Kelby One.
Well, hi everyone, we are back on the grid. I'm Corey Barker here with Vanelli, and we are talking about Photoshop World, the big event. We all love it, and we hope you do too, so be sure to join us in there in July 19th, 18th, if you want to go to the pre-cons. All right, what do we want to talk about now? I want to talk about different parts of Photoshop World. Let's talk about everything. No.
Well, the first part is, so the first day we start out with the keynote.
The keynote, of course.
Yeah,
Yes.
so the
And
keynote,
like I said, don't miss that.
And that, like we said, it sets the mood. And actually, you have a couple pictures for that. Right?
Yeah, so Vanelli's been good enough to bring some photos from the event here.
Now,
so.
this is what's neat, because a lot of times Adobe will come out and Adobe will actually tell everyone what the new stuff is, what the new features are in Photoshop.
New features in Photoshop and Lightroom, of course, yes.
And that's when, remember when the Content-Aware Fill first came out?
Oh, yeah.
There's Russell up there teaching it, and all you heard was a bunch of and it was amazing that we get to have firsthand look at the stuff that they're actually doing. So, and then there's the Guru Awards.
Now, of course, the Guru Awards. I have a personal story about, well, not really a story, but I will say, if you're an up-and-coming designer, learning your craft or anything like that, enter the Guru Awards. If you're going to Photoshop World, enter the Guru Awards. I've won one, and I've also won the Vinny Versace Award for digital photography. And it really does help. It actually helps open some doors. It actually got me talking to a lot of people and really helped me really connect in a lot of different ways. So it's really something you definitely want to look into, and it's a lot of fun. And it gives you, of course, recognition, So it's a lot of fun with that. Of course, you mentioned Adobe, of course, having a special part of the keynote, but they also have been in the expo as well. They've had a booth where they've talked about, of course, their various products and stuff like that. And of course, there's Julianne. Everybody all know Julianne Cost. She's awesome. If you've ever seen her evangelizing Photoshop and Lightroom, she's awesome. Of course, here is one of the big rooms. Who's that teaching in there? Is that me? No, that's not me. That looks like a size crowd I would have, though.
Yes.
Anyway, so there's, of course, the keynote with Mr. Kelby, and I think that was the year they did Kiss theme.
Yes.
Remember that one? That was a lot of fun, yeah, So you can see this is like an example of the keynote. So it's a production. It's a lot of fun, and it really, like you said, like we talked about, it really kicks off the event. There's Scott.
Here we are. Yeah. So this was one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
They did Kiss, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And everybody was dressed as different characters. And we'll go back to the other one. Yeah. So we are. So they're all dressed as different characters, and this was just amazing how, again, it set the theme and the tone of the entire conference. So people got to see all the stuff that they were working on, the new products that Adobe's coming out with, and then they got to be entertained. And these are members of the Kelby Group.
Yeah.
And that was just so incredible watching all this.
And that's another thing that sets the keynote apart from other events is that it's staffed by everybody in house, including the expo. Including the keynote show, because every year we've done a movie, we've always used us and a lot of people in the building. Like just a couple years ago, we did the whole Pirates of the Caribbean theme. We employed half the building in the movie we did for that. Went out to the beach right here near Tampa and shot a lot of scenes. Actually had this really good Jack Sparrow lookalike. This guy named Mark Moore. And
Incredible.
If you met this guy in person, you would never guess. But when he is in full costume in his Jack Sparrow outfit, he is Jack Sparrow to a T. I'm not kidding you. He is dead on. But outside the costume, you would never guess this guy could pull that off. But that was just.
Here's the best part about it. It's a keynote.
Mm-hmm.
So you think of most keynotes as boring.
Yeah.
Okay, here we are. We're going through this, and you sit down and you know you're going to be entertained.
Yeah.
So and then the Sarah Palin, when we were in DC, they did the DC and this woman came up and she was a Sarah Palin impersonator, and it was hilarious. Watching you guys pull everything together. And then, of course, we went through and they started teaching more of what's new with Adobe. But it was kind of cool just to see how you were able to pull everything together. And that was the first day. That just kicked everything off. Yeah. And everyone was just so excited and pumped from that point on.
And we've gotten a lot of talented people in the video department, and the production value has increased, that much more every year. So it's really a lot of fun to be able to do that. So again, another reason to not miss the keynote. Now I want to jump back over and talk about the pre-cons that we mentioned earlier, and just kind of talk about a couple of details regarding those.
There was a couple of new ones, right?
Yeah, there were a few new ones, and just want to get some other information. So it's on Monday, July 18th, of course, is the day of the pre-conference workshops, and they're optional. They are separately priced. Now, they price individually, and there's a limited number of seats in each one. So if you are going to look up the pre-cons and decide to attend one, make sure that you sign up pretty quickly. They do sell out pretty quick, especially the location ones, like the one with Moose. When they're going on location, and Dave Black when they do the light painting and stuff like that, those fill up fast because it's a whole day. You actually bus out to the location and do all these things, so it's a lot of stuff involved there. So you make sure that you register for those as soon as possible if you decide to do that. Now, as I mentioned, they are limited. Some are limited to as few as 25 people to a max of 100. Depending on the one you want to attend. They're a great way to really dig into the topic. Now, since these are held the day before the conference, it's only a way. I'm reading poorly because the scroll is moving. It's only a way to quickly hone your skills, but also network. Not only a way to hone your skills, but also to network with not just the instructors. This is a great thing too. You're not just networking with fellow attendees and talking about other stuff. You have a chance to talk to the instructors in an intimate setting and really ask the questions you want to ask. When you're in a classroom setting, you might have a question, you may or may not get an answer, but you can actually go up to them, walk up to them with your camera and say, I'm curious about this setting here. Can you tell me the best way to do this? You can do that. It's not the kind of event where you just, listen and then let the egos go and do their thing. No, these guys really want to help, and they want you to ask those questions. So be sure to do that.
That's where I met Tim Wallace.
Yeah.
Tim did an incredible conference. Originally, it was how to photograph an automobile, but then he slipped in a whole bunch of business things, which was really cool. Yeah. And it was like, wow, I didn't expect that was going to be part of the pre-con. Yeah. And then he said afterwards, no, I added these extra things in because I felt the crowd and I knew these were questions you guys wanted to ask.
Well, yeah,
and he just ran with it.
And that brings up an interesting point, is that a lot of these instructors, you're there to learn from their craft. These are professional photographers and they have a good style about them, and that's what you're there to learn. But a lot of them run their own business. They do their own thing, and they're freelance photographers basically. So you can ask them business questions. If you're looking at, now they might not always answer a business question, but a lot of them are really forthcoming with, I'm interested in starting my own photography business. How do I do that? What would you suggest? And they will tell you. Yeah. They're very helpful about that sort of thing.
Especially Jack Woznicki, Ed.
Joel Grimes is another good one. I'm a good friend of Joel Grimes. He is a brilliant photographer, but he's also a brilliant marketer and businessman. So he knows how to get his business in place. So he's a good one to ask those kind of questions too. So be sure to do that. Now, talk about a few other classes. I want to mention one I'm doing. I'm actually doing one class I've never done before, and I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I really want to try this. And I'm calling it basically the Photoshop Improv Hour. This class, I'm prepping nothing. I'm going to go into this class and just simply, like a comedy improv show, they'll stand up in front of the audience and say, all right, give me an occupation, all right, give me a scenario or something like that. I'm going to do that in a Photoshop scenario. I'm basically going to put my laptop on the desk, and I'm going to ask the crowd for suggestions. I'm going to ask for a topic. I'm going to have a handful of different stock images, and we're going to pull those. And I'm literally going to design and teach something improv right on the spot.
That's awesome. They actually did something very similar.
Yeah.
That was at the end of
Photoshop
Photoshop
Wars,
World.
yeah. Mhm.
Remember that? They would Photoshop Wars, right?
Yeah.
So they would have professionals like yourself, and then hit Burt Monroy and a few others, and then they would pull 2 people out of the audience and say, okay, help. And they always made sure one of you guys were there. And then what they did was they pulled one of you out and had it strictly the attendees, and you could definitely tell a lot of the attendees were wishing the pros were there. But you're teaching a whole class on that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just going to be nothing. I mean,
It's gonna be
so I'm serious. I'm like I said, I'm going to have a few images I'm going to gather for the crowd to choose from, but I'm going to do no prep. I'm not going to think I'm going to have a design in the back of my mind. No, I'm going to let everybody suggest something, and they're just going to see me build it live.
In all honesty, because again, I look at you as one of the most incredible, you and Burt Monroy, when it comes to graphic arts. I've always loved the stuff that you guys do. To watch you do that, as a photographer, that also helps me, because I can look back and say, okay, well, look, Corey's doing this with graphic designs. As a photographer, what happens if I'm stuck in a room and nobody gave me guidance on what to shoot? It's up to me.
Yeah, I think it would be cool to see that thought process. A lot of people, when you come to Photoshop World, you're seeing the end of that thought process by the instructor. They've sorted out all the problems, and now they're passing that along to you. I would like to. Honestly, this would be a class I'd like to attend, but I can't because I have to do it. I have to teach it. So I'm really excited about it. The unknown scares me to death, but it also is very exciting. So I hope a lot of people come to that class and check it out and see let's see what we can make together.
Hey, that's gonna be incredible.
So, and what are you gonna be doing out there? You're gonna be doing Midnight Madness again. So
Yeah.
Are you gonna be going to any of the
Midnight Madness, and a lot of things that we do. Well, okay, so I'm kind of considered the self-proclaimed Photoshop evangelist. So, and what I like to do is, my job is like networking. So, especially new people. In fact, Scott had something funny about a video about that.
Should we pull that up? See if we can.
Shoot the video.
Okay.
So Scott says it the best.
Okay.
And just give you a little heads up on it. A caller asked Matt, "What do you do if he doesn't know, you don't know anybody at Photoshop World? You know, he's coming in from Germany. He's going to feel alone. What should he do if he can't make friends?"
Okay, let's see what we got here.
I'd throw it right back at that, whoever, was it Tim that asked? I'd throw it right back at him and just say, it's up to you. You know?
It's what you make of it.
You're not going to walk up to anybody and they're going to say, I don't want to talk to you. If you're the type of person that can walk up to people and start to meet and network with people.
Oh, yeah. Here's what I would do, honestly, I kid you not. So Tim is his name? Tim, what I would do is when you get to Photoshop World, and I'm not joking about this, ask, where's Vanelli? It's Vanelli. So Vanelli is kind of our ambassador of love. And if it's your first time, I guarantee you, number one, you'll never be alone. Vanelli will do stuff with you. He'll have a whole bunch of people doing stuff with Vanelli all the freaking time.
See, he's inside your head.
He does. He gets inside your brain. You will have a lot of fun. He's a great guy. He'll take a bullet for you. But you will not be alone. And I'll say this to anybody. Get to the conference and go, I'm new here. Where's Vanelli? Someone will point Vanelli out, and it's almost a lock that Vanelli will be 50 feet away. Because I don't know how one person can be in so many places.
He's present in all over the place.
He's everywhere. And he's a great guy, and he's kind of our ambassador for new people. So if you go there and you see Vanelli, he'll take you under his wing.
The absolute coolest thing, I saw somebody say, well, I'm a sports photographer and I want to meet some other sports photographers. And he'll go, oh, do you know? And he'll start walking over and introduce people.
Oh, yeah, there's Dave Black. Have you ever met Dave Black? Come on over and he'll introduce you. Another question was...
Now, it's funny, Larry Becker, that you saw there, he was the one who actually dubbed me as as a connector. So... And there's actually a pre-con that's a free pre-con for people who've never been to Photoshop World.
The first time orientation,
Yep.
yes.
And
Larry
so
is in fact doing that again this time around.
Yep.
Too.
And then Larry talks about what to expect. This is your first time at Photoshop World. These are the things you expect. And one day I walked in on it, and there was a picture of me standing like this, the one that Scott took, the photo, and it said, "What's a Vanelli?" And he talked about Vanelli, me, and I started laughing because I had no idea who was doing it. But he dubbed me as a connector, and then afterwards he said, "I hope you didn't mind that I did that, but I noticed every Photoshop World, you grab people and say, so you're a graphic artist? Let me introduce you to Corey. Oh, you're a sport photographer? Let me introduce you to Dave Black." And that's what I try to do is people that feel awkward and maybe they don't like being in a social environment.
That's why I think you would be probably a great cruise director. You know, like you'd be that guy that organizes everybody, you know, all the events on a cruise ship or something like that. I gotta say, just a little side note here. When I first started working and doing Photoshop World, it was Scott and Matt and a few others. One of the first things they told me, they said, "Have you met Vanelli yet?" I'm like, "No, who's that?" And I'm like, "That's all he is. That's all he is just Vanelli." He's like one of those one-name guys. But anyway, he said, "No matter what you do, if you see him at Photoshop World, don't give him your number." He said, once you have your number, once he has your number, you're in his head, and then you can't get out. So they actually had me scared of Vanelli for a while. And then I finally met him. I'm like, well, he's not such a bad guy, you know.
And actually, Scott, I don't know where the picture is on this one, but Scott actually, as a joke, Scott did, if you see this man, do not give him your cell phone number. And my own father called me and said, "Robert, are you harassing people?"
Yeah.
I go, "What are you talking about?" And so I looked at Scott's website, and it was funny. He did this whole, the 5 things don't look at Vanelli in the eye and stuff like that. But then he joked, and the whole reason why Scott did that was, if you're nervous, go find someone. And what was really cool, my buddy Ross from Seattle, Washington, Ross started the whole Vanelli and Friends thing because we were at a Los Angeles Photoshop World, and we didn't know anybody. And I was lost, as usual. I always get lost. And my buddy Ross actually said, "Hey, are you going to Photoshop World?" And I said, "Well, yeah." He goes, "You're going the wrong direction. It's this way." And we've been friends ever since, and that was 1999 or 2000. So we've been friends all these
The LA
years.
Photoshop World?
Yep.
That was around that time.
Yep. So we've been
I was thinking in my
friends-
head, I'm like, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, we've been friends ever since.
Yeah.
And our families got together. We flew out there, and we spent Thanksgiving together. We did photo shoots together. I've worked on projects with him for web designs and different things. So it was kind of neat.
I just
Just-
wanted to.
Oh,
wanted
there's
to
a good
pull
old
these up.
Bert.
We're going to take a break in just a moment. I want to show you some more pictures real quick. We talked about Midnight Madness and what Vanelli does at Midnight Madness, and here's a few pictures just kind of showing you of some of the things. Of course,
English
there's
buddies.
our buddies, Mr.
across the
Dave
pond.
Clayton and Glenn Dewis, and of course, look,
Mr. Hollywood.
Mr. Hollywood, Calvin Hollywood, the man himself. So here is some of the footage of the games that Vanelli does right outside the event before we let people in. And of course, there are prizes and everything like that. And people really get excited about it. And have a
And
lot
that's
of
what's cool about it. Look, there's Hoodman,
Yeah.
there's Tiffin. So a lot of the vendors. Oh, and that's what we were talking about earlier. So you have to stand in line to get tickets.
Right. You have to go. It's an early morning thing. It's, what do they say? So they have 200 tickets. So it's roughly at like early morning. It's like the second morning of the event. You have to go and it's first come, first serve for these tickets. And these are people camping out. It's
5:30
not
in the
quite.
morning.
It's not quite the iPhone line or Star Wars Episode 7 line outside the theater, but people do line up for this event, and that gives you an idea of how popular of an event it is because people really do want to check that out. Now, before we go to break, I just want to talk about one little Photoshop World story. This has happened last year. It's kind of a Photoshop World related, kind of not. I just think it's really funny. So last year, I got the Photoshop Hall of Fame award and got it at the last Photoshop World event. And one of the perks was that I got a limo from the airport to the hotel. So I have a friend out in Las Vegas. His name's Adam Silversmith. If you're watching, what's up, Adam? He knows some people at the hotel and the car service that was going to be picking me up at the hotel. So what they wanted to do, RC was already out there and Adam was out there, and they wanted to come out and meet me at the airport when the limo, and they just wanted to ride in the limo with the guy since he knew him. So he called up this girl he knows at the car service and was asking him, says, well, we got a friend coming in. It's going to be picked up by the car service. Just want to find out what time they're going to be heading over there. And the girl's like, well, what's his name? And he says, Corey Barker. And she's like, you mean Snoop? and he's like, what do you mean? Apparently, can't confirm this, but this is what she said. Apparently, Snoop Dogg travels under the alias Corey Barker. So that's who she thought he was talking about. He's like, no, this guy's actual name is Corey Barker. So they wanted to call me Snoop from now on, since Snoop's apparently using my name for some reason. I don't know like that. But I thought that was a really funny little side note there. I thought that was very interesting. So more stuff like that and many things to come. So let's take another quick break, and we'll be right back, talk more about Photoshop World in Las Vegas.
Hey guys, I'm Michael Corsentino. I'm really excited about my brand new class on how to use the Canon 600 EX-RT and its companion trigger. This class is designed to get you up to speed using flashes, modifying your light, and molding and shaping your light with various accessories. We'll talk about radio versus optical, masters and slaves, groups, and high-speed sync. So I hope you come check out my brand new class only on kelby1.com.
Create your own space at squarespace.com.
It's an explosion of Photoshop knowledge, skills, all wrapped up into one big convention.
It exposes you to a lot of different techniques and ideas, and it's going to make you want to come back again right away.
I think as a professional, it's must to come and train yourself.
If you want to be serious, you want to take it to the next level, there's no reason why you're not here.
To see these guys in action, it's amazing.
Go. Just hands down, go.
And we are back here on the grid talking about Photoshop World. I'm Corey, and I'm with Vanelli. Now, we're going to talk about a few more fun things that we like about Photoshop World. And of course, we have to look at my screen here again. This is, of course, the post
my father yelled at me about.
Of the don't give this man your cell phone number. That was quite famously the word around Photoshop World for a while.
But and again, Scott did that for a reason. He did that because then people would start asking questions. Well, one of the guys that started asking a bunch of questions was Mike Cabasi. Now, I never met Mike Cabasi up to this point, and for those of you that don't know him, we call him Hollywood.
Hollywood Mike.
Yep, because he shoots for NCIS. And any of the top TV shows, the man shoots for. And he's just a genius with lighting, just phenomenal. So I met him at Photoshop World, and how I met him was he dropped all these important papers. So I reached down to pick them up, and it says FBI, or NCIS, confidential, for your eyes only. And I started freaking out, and he walked over to me, and he had an NCIS hat on, and grabbed my arm and said, "Did you look at those images?" I said, no. And they were like dead bodies and dumpsters. And he goes, "Did you look at them? Yes or no?" I go, I caught a glimpse. And he goes, "You need to come with me." And I was like, wait a second, are you that Cabasi guy they were talking about? So Cabasi and I have been friends for God knows how long. And this is what I love best about Photoshop World is you build everlasting friends. Mike shoots for the set of NCIS. So here we are on the set of NCIS. Everyone knows, of course, Mark Harmon.
I, of course, got to meet this guy. I don't have any pictures, but I visited the set a few years ago as well. Also got to meet Mark Harmon and got to see them shoot a few scenes. Did you see him shoot? Yeah. And it was really cool. Now, I will be honest, I don't watch NCIS. I'm sorry.
I'm religious on it.
But I did watch the episode I was there to film because it's just cool when you see a scene and you know that you're standing right around the corner there. It was really cool to see that.
Here's the next one.
But Mike's a super cool guy, and he was all too willing to get us out there on the set and check things out. So, there you go.
Paul, now, I'm on set, and who loves Paulie the most? Rod Harlan and RC. So I took out my cell phone, and I called RC and said, "RC, somebody needs to talk to you." And RC said, "I can't talk to you now. I'm with Moose Peterson in a workshop." And he was boasting about being with Moose Peterson. And I said, "Listen to your voice message." And Paulie left him a voice message. "RC, I hear you're one of my biggest fans." And you went on and on and on.
Yeah.
So it was kind of neat. RC called me back. "Vanelli, put her back on the phone." So it's kind of neat. But if you go back all the way to the beginning, you know what's kind of neat? This gentleman here, remember Ninja Turtles?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, this is Pat Johnson. Him and I go way back. So I'm on the set of NCIS, and who do I see? A buddy of mine who's a stunt coordinator for Ninja Turtles. And it was kind of neat that I got to meet him, and he looked at me and said, "What the heck are you doing here?" And it was funny. Cabasi walked over and said, "Vanelli, I swear to God, I'll take you to the South Pole. You'll find a penguin you know." But we had fun. And again, that's where the networking now, if Cabasi never saw that article about not giving this man your cell phone number, if Cabasi never went to Photoshop World, we never would have had that connection.
You just never know how the connections are going to be made.
Exactly.
You know, so,
and I'm not saying everyone. I mean, one of my buddies called Cabasi up and asked him, "Hey, can I come out and watch you shoot on the set?" And he said, "By all means, because you're number 746, and right now I'm on number 4.
Yeah.
So, but not everyone can do it, but at least you get to meet these guys when you're out there.
Precisely. So, all right, I want to jump to one thing, something I forgot to mention before we started. We're actually going to give away a couple of things today. Now, I'll have Vanelli help me this because I don't want to be just plugging my own stuff. But we have copies of. Now, the only reason we're talking about these books is because I just finished my latest book, which is the Photoshop for Designers book. I literally turned in the last chapter yesterday. So it's going to be published in the next month and a half.
Yeah,
so.
When's it being published?
Yeah, actually, if you go to Amazon right now and look at it, the published date is my birthday. Now, I did not plan that. I had nothing to do with that. I literally looked at it this morning. I'm like, holy crap, it's my birthday. It's getting published on. So happy birthday to me. Yeah, 4/28.
4/28.
So it's finished, it's done, but we are giving away copies of my first two books. It's just Down and Dirty Tricks for Designers, Volume 1 and 2, which Vanelli's had right there. I will sign these copies as well, but you can check that out, and we'll talk about how you can win these books a little bit later, but I just wanted to point those out. And again, the book, I actually have this one. Yeah, I actually want to show you a few examples from the new book, if I may. Would that be okay? Just kind of give you a little teaser here of what's going on. Now, the book is kind of like a Down and Dirty book, but it's smaller. It's actually in the format of like Scott's digital photography books. It's meant to be a handbook. It's a quick reference for little quick design tips and stuff like that. So actually, if we go and put my screen on here, am I still connected here? So I've got a lot of photography stuff in there. This is, of course, a double exposure effect that I have in there. Actually, I figured out how to do this in 10 steps.
Oh, wow.
And that's the cool thing about this book is everything is roughly 10 steps in the book, and there's a lot of really cool stuff in there. And so, like, of course, I've got some Hollywood stuff in there. And this one, it's actually the dash of my car. Now, because of this cool color technique, it looks a little bit cooler than that. But that's actually an iPhone shot. Just took a picture with my iPhone, and actually this was an accident shot. And this is something I always tell people.
Why are you telling your photographer this?
It's like, I always tell people, never discount the ones that you took by accident. Chances are there's a gem in there that you could probably use. Now this one, because of this particular technique, actually turned out to be pretty cool. And of course I've got some compositing stuff in there like that. So there's just a lot of really, now this one is really cool. If you look at the type, this is a brush I created with the Capture app that Adobe makes.
Ooh.
And it's a movie ticket. It's a movie ticket stub that I took a picture of, made it into a brush, and then did this cool brush effect on the image there. So that's how I was able to paint that in there. So that is the kind of really kind of out-of-the-box techniques that are going to be in the book, and that's, of course, the Photoshop for Designers book, and you can find out more on Amazon.com, and, of course, at my Facebook, facebook.com/CoreyPS3D for more information on that as well. So I'm done plugging myself. Moving on to the next thing. So we're still talking about, what, Photoshop World? So let's go back to the fun after-hours stuff. So there's always the after-hours party, which is the first day. It's after Keynote day. We have the Keynote in the morning, and then you've got a number of sessions, and then you've got the expo and stuff like that, but it's going to be the pavilion now, so it's going to be a little bit different. But more sessions and things like that. At the end of the day, it's the after-hours party. It's basically a way for everybody to get together and just have a good time. Now, it's a separate event. It's a paid event, so you make sure that you register for that again as well. Where is it going to be? Not too sure yet. They are finalizing the details on that. I speak well. On that, but we will be getting that information very soon, so you'll be able to find that out as well. So be sure to check that out. So they're usually tickets right up until the event. So, but if you are going to be planning on attending that, make sure that you register for that for as soon as possible. And it will be a lot of dancing, dinner, drinks, partying, and there's always somebody always does something silly. We don't know who, but. So,
now, the 5-year
I'm betting on Peter Hurley or somebody like that.
Now, the 5-year alumni, they get tickets to that stuff, too. If I'm not mistaken?
I'm not sure. Let's ask our producer. Do they? Is that true? No, don't know that yet. All right, so.
Nope. Okay. Nope. Well, you know what's funny? A lot of the alumni that have been there for 5+ years, we have a breakfast in the mornings, and a lot of them have the actual tickets in. So I always thought they. That's right. You're right. They had to pay for them.
No, it's funny that you bring up the alumni because I always kid Vanelli when I see them because they give you these alumni stickers to put on your badge at the event, and every time I see him, he's got it says alumni, and he's got 8 of them hanging. I'm like, we just need to make one that says I've been here a lot, and that's all you need to wear.
You know, it's funny. The reason why I do it, it's a little. Conversation starter. So when people I meet for the first time, they look, they notice something, the first thing they're going to say to me is, oh, wow, you've been here a lot. And that usually starts a conversation, and then I start asking them, is this your first time here? And we talk from there. But you mentioned the after-hours party, which is always incredible.
I will say there's one point. Talking about alumni do not get an automatic ticket, but if you get the Pro Pass,
that's what it is.
If you register with the Pro Pass for Photoshop World, you automatically get a ticket for the after-hours party. So just be aware of that.
That's what it was. Yep. And a lot of the alumni, it's just so neat how they take on some of the new people coming in, and because I can't be everywhere, although you guys think I am. A lot of
seems
times,
like you are.
Well, what I'll do is
your name is everywhere. Let's just put it that way.
I'll put people together. So if somebody gets a little nervous, I usually kind of hang out together.
You know, Vanelli's been around when somebody comes up to you and says, "Vanelli said," and it's like, "Oh, okay, all right."
That I can do this. And you know what also is neat? There's not just like that party, but the neat thing was a lot of the vendors did parties afterwards also. I know Rich Harrington for Photo Focus. You know, they did a reader's breakfast where X amount of people were invited, and we all sat down and we just ate, and that's when we brought in like Alan Hess. We brought in Kabasi. We brought in a bunch of other people just coming to talk to people while we were all eating breakfast. And so it's kind of neat that a lot of people really embraced that whole attitude of getting everyone together and building that bonding friendship. So
well, and they used to do this, and I'm not sure if are they still doing the Birds of a Feather? Do we know?
Or the Stranger? Hi, I'm a Stranger one?
Yeah, they would have these things called Dinner with a Stranger. Which sounds creepy at first.
But I love
because Dinner with a Stranger in Vegas, yeah, that can't it can't end well. No, but when it comes to Photoshop World, it's actually really cool because what they do is it's a reason you don't just want to walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, you seem like interesting. You want to go have dinner?" Nobody's going to say yes.
Wait a second. I do that all the time.
Yeah. Well, unless you're Vanelli. But just to walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, want to go to dinner?" They might charge you to do that. But no. But you're basically connecting with people that are in, like, you know, you're a photographer, you're a designer, you know, you're like I said before, you're mixing and talking and just, you know, doing different things. And this is a sponsored event, if you will. It makes it a little less creepy, that you can actually go and talk to other people within other industries. And it's kind of an after-hours. It's part of the event, but it's away from the event. You can really just kind of get away and talk about a lot of things. And I've connected with a lot of people that I'm still friends with today doing that very thing back when I was an attendee. So
I joked. I put my name on the list, and they scratched it off and said, "You're not a stranger." So they wouldn't let me go. But it was neat because, again, like I said, people who don't like large crowds, I mean, we love having a whole entourage with us.
Yeah.
Some people don't like that, and that's okay. They want one or two people to sit and talk with. And so I've always found that fascinating. That they had it at Photoshop World.
Yeah, and of course, and I know I've actually attended Photoshop World by myself. You know, chances are a lot of people come with friends or something like that. And if you come by yourself, you're almost going to be like, well, I'm not going to know anybody. I'm not. That's what this is for. It's for those of you who, I mean, it's for those of you that are with a lot of people. But if you're alone and you really want to dig in, that's what we're here to help you do. And it's not just up to you to go in there and find it. You know, we're going to help you make those connections, be it, you know, with Dinner with a Stranger or any of the after-hours party or anything like that. That's what those things are meant for, is not just to have a good time, but be able to connect and talk to people in a less formal, less intimidating setting, if you will. So that's why we really enjoy that. So, okay. So we talked about Midnight Madness earlier, talked about the tickets will be handed out early in the morning on Wednesday. That's day 2. Well, day 3 if you count the pre-con day. But early in the morning the next day, and that's July 20th. So, again, the first 200 individuals in line on a first-come, first-served basis. So don't beat each other up for tickets. And I will say this. Chances are, if you show up at the event, you probably still get in. You still need a ticket. Security's pretty tight. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that. Don't take me to word that. But if you did not get a ticket, you slept in because you drank a little too much at night, they
took extra classes.
If you show up, at the very minimum, you can see Vanelli's little pre-show. And that's cool too. But chances are you might be able to get in still, but I'm not guaranteeing that. Be sure that you have a ticket regardless. But you want to have a ticket anyway because we do prizes based on your ticket number and stuff like that as well. So you want to make sure you do that. So
exactly.
So, all right. So what else we got? We got more pictures. You have a lot of pictures here. Let's see.
Let's see.
What do we have here? Classes.
Okay.
Hey, look at that.
Do you remember this one?
I couldn't be more stunned, man. Deer in headlights. Look at that right there. All right. It looks like you know what that looks like? I'm a confused air traffic controller right there. Guys, I lost a plane. I don't know where it is.
Here's the next one. Look at this.
Now look at there. There's Mr. J. Mazet.
Now, okay.
Now, I will say this. If you are not even a photographer and have no interest in photography at all, you're, like me, a designer or something, I actually have interest. My point is, if you have no interest in what Jay does, go to his sessions anyway. You will be wildly entertained. His dialogue alone is just insanely funny. I mean,
Lots of beeps.
Yeah.
No, okay, so here we are at Photoshop World, and here's Jay Maisel. My son got to meet him. So I mean, as a parent, as a father, I mean, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of freaked me out was Jay looked at me and said, "Hey, let me see your camera." I'm like, "Oh my God, Jay wants to see my camera." I hand Jay my camera.
You never watched that camera since, have you?
No, so he changes a few settings and he hands it to my son and says, "Hey, I'm taking your kid out for a little bit," and took my kid out for like 30 minutes. And they just walked around taking
He came
photos.
back a better photographer than you. Huh?
Yeah, my son came back to me and I said, "What did Jay show you?" It's between me and Jay. And then literally a week later, Jay's on the biography channel.
Yeah.
And so my son called me in the room and said, "Dad, you're not going to believe this. Jay's on TV."
Yeah.
And there he was. And of course, they kept beeping him out on some of his words.
Yeah.
But it's neat. I mean, so as
the man is a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah,
it's
I don't know
ridiculous.
if I was more. I don't know if I was. I know I was happy as a father, but I think I was ticked off as a photographer that Jay took my son and not me. So, but it's neat. But that's a perfect example of somebody teaching the classes.
And of course, there's Joel Grimes. I was talking about earlier. Fantastic instructor. He's very inspirational. I actually attended his workshop when he had his studio in Pasadena some years ago, and I was blown away. Learned a lot from him, and he actually.
And ironically, he's colorblind.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So people, so when you hear people give excuses on why
Pete is too.
They can't do things, he tells them, "Look, I'm colorblind, and look at the stuff he still produces."
Oh, he does amazing stuff. Yeah. If you've never seen Joel's stuff, go and look him up. He is fantastic. Of course, he'll be there as well. I think that's all we have. Who's that first? Oh, there's Amanda for us. Yeah.
Okay, so back to what I was saying about when you're at the event, and again, if you're a seasoned photographer, and let's say like my buddy Ross, he actually teaches at the prison. He gave up a very lucrative career, and Ross, because he was so excited about learning photography, he decided to work with the Seattle Penitentiary, and he's teaching the prisoners photography and graphics. Well, Ross will come to these events, and he knows anything about Photoshop, but he doesn't just go for the knowledge. He watches people like Scott teach, and it's not what they're teaching, it's how they're teaching it. And Scott will give him tips and tricks on what he can do back with his students. So we talked a lot about the new people coming in, how excited they are, but let's not also forget, coming into the routine, there's also a great venue for people who've been there for a long time. Now, you have I think the networking.
Let's see what we got.
So, good old Jack Davis.
Is that and this almost barely recognized Jack there. Look at that. Yeah.
Yes, it's ironic if you go through. We went on an impromptu. We just went out and just did a photo walk.
Oh yeah.
So here's Jack Davis and my buddy Debbie Grimm, and we just went out on a photo walk after I met Jack for the first time. And these are a couple photo walks we did. That was a Boston one.
Oh, nice.
That we shot a while back. But it was neat that, again, the networking that you meet. Now, there was one, I thought you saw a vendor party.
Yeah, it was a vendor party. He's talking about that photo focus party.
Do you remember?
I actually didn't make it to this one, but I heard how cool it was. And apparently there's a pinball museum.
I don't know. Rich Harrington, the one to the right, with his mouth open. This was a stage shot. And there's Scott Bourne. And Rich rented out this pinball. You walk in, it looks like a dive.
It's a pinball museum.
And all the money that the guy makes goes to helping. He donates all the money. So he rented this out, and X amount of people were invited. And then there's good old Kevin Ames.
Mr. Ames.
And look who that is.
Yeah, there's Asha.
So, and we had a great time. Oh, and you know who this is?
Is that
What you talking about, Willis?
Oh, yeah. I forget his name, but yeah.
Todd Bridges.
Yeah, Todd Bridges,
So
yeah.
Todd Bridges showed up, which was kind of cool.
How funny.
And here's Lindsay Adler giving a little kiss to Eric.
Look at Eric, surrounded by the ladies, of course.
Yeah, and we pretended like it was his birthday. Actually, I think it was his birthday.
Was it?
For this one. And we just played with it. But again, it was neat because you're not stuck into a classroom. So you're learning all the material, but here's the best part,
It's like the bell doesn't ring at the end of the learning day and you're done. There's more to do.
So I'm sitting here in class, and all of a sudden, I look out and I see you, the man who wrote the book, open up the page. Oh, this looks pretty cool. Hey, Corey, how do you do this, this, and this? And I've never once had anyone look at me and say, look, you know what? I'm too exhausted. I don't want to show you this stuff. They're excited because people are asking questions.
Sure.
And they're like, wow, people really want to learn this stuff.
Well, you know, and the funny thing is, I was on the other side of that.
Exactly.
Before, I was the one going up to these guys, asking the questions, doing all these things, wanting to be up there as one of them, and then eventually it happened. So if you're out there thinking, you know, I'll never be that good or anything like that, I thought the same thing. You just don't know until you go out there and try it. Even when the job came up, when I applied for the job, I thought it's a long shot. But I did put together the best portfolio I could, and it worked. And I got the job. So, but I never would have gotten it had I just not tried. So that's one thing I can leave you is definitely don't let that negative, you know, those negative thoughts defeat you. You know, just you'd rather know if it's not going to work. You'd rather know for sure and not wonder if it's not going to work. You know. So.
No, and it's neat because like you said, we build everlasting friends. You know, our buddy
is Alan Hess is on the chat. What's up, Alan?
Oh, that's right. Okay, so we have Dave Clayton and Glenn Dewis. I just came back from England, or London, and I got to admit, I mean, they treated us like royalty over there. It was just amazing. Yeah. I was on the Perfectly Clear tour with Rich Harrington.
Sure.
So Photo Focus sent me over there, and Glenn Dewis was there. Dave Clayton was there. I met my new buddy, Dave Williams, and it was so neat. They actually took us. I mean, we're driving in this police car, and all of a sudden, I said, hey, is that over there, is that the Buckingham Palace? And he goes, of course it is. Turns in, we jump out, take pictures of Buckingham Palace, hop back in, and they took us to 10 Downing Street. So I came back, and of course I talked to, now 10 Downing Street, by the way, for us Americans, it's the equivalent of the White House. So you have to have an invite to get there. But
is it their version of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue?
Oh, yeah. So, but it was neat. And again, there are my buddies over, you know, across the pond. You have Glenn and Dave. And it was neat because they talked to a lot of people before I got there. So I'm walking down the street and they're like, oh, wow, you're that Vanelli guy. You write for Photo Focus, don't you? Hey, aren't you the guy at PhotoshopWorld? And they see that because, again, the bonding.
They make those connections. Yeah, exactly.
You know, and then, of course, Alan Hess, the concert photography. I mean, he a lot of the images you saw earlier was because the concert class. You know, Scott and the band gets up there and they start playing. And then Alan taught a pre-con about concerts. And here we are all shooting, and then you walk away with some of these incredible images. So I can't stress enough that the pre-cons and just building the networking with each other.
Yeah. I mean, that alone is worth it. So, all right, we only have a few more minutes to wrap things up. So I just want to talk about a few new things. So there are new classes. Photographer Michael Corsentino has a new class on using the Canon 600EX RT. Is that right? The hot shoe flash. Now, also John McQuiston has a get up to speed on the Sony A7R S2. So be sure to check that out as well at kelby1.com. So coming tomorrow, Mr. Clayton.
Hey.
Our buddy Dave Clayton has got some InDesign classes that he did just recently. InDesign Basics, creating custom flyer for your business. So he's bringing some of that UK design knowledge over here to us.
Well, isn't it neat how PhotoshopWorld and a lot of the training is a pendulum? When I first started, you could definitely tell who the pre-pressmen were.
Sure.
You could definitely tell who the graphic artists were. You could tell who the photographers were. And the photographers back then were very, very little. And then all of a sudden, it kind of swung. And as a photographer, I'm happy about this.
Well, I mean,
it swung to the right. And it became a lot of photography. And honestly, I forgot how to create my own logo. And now it kind of swung back to the middle, where they have classes like you, David, and the rest of them.
In the very early first years of PhotoshopWorld, digital photography was barely in its infancy. So, you know, people were still shooting film, and it was a digital event. So it was a design event. It was about Photoshop and design and doing really cool things with photos after you had them in your computer. And of course, digital photography took off, and now it became it all rolled into the digital realm, and that's why it kind of really had that shift. But you're right. It had a dramatic shift that direction.
And now it's bringing it back.
And now
I got to be honest, the one that blew my mind totally is we were shooting in the Westcott booth, and I had this guy on a motorcycle, we had the wind blowing in their hair, we're setting these lights up, and I'm doing all these incredible things, and this one walks over and says, excuse me for a moment, do you mind if I take a quick picture? And I'm thinking, what are you doing? You took a cell phone shot.
They have these themed sets in the expo, so the lighting's not great in the expo hall and everything. But they have these themed sets. In this case, it was a motorcycle with a girl, a model on it, sitting there. And he's right.
He walks over.
There are people have really elaborate DSLRs, and they're just doing all these crazy angles and stuff like that.
And here's a graphic artist. Says, Vanelli, just one moment. So I'm like, well, what is it? Hey, guys, look who's here. It's Corey. And everyone's like, wow, it's Corey. Click. All right, I'm done.
With my phone.
Yeah, and I go, what the heck was that? And then you posted, like, maybe a couple hours later, this incredible poster of the guy on the bike, and I just looked at him and went, "Are you serious? Did you take that with your cell phone?" But it's neat.
I wish I'd known you were. I would have brought it, that image. But it actually was one of the things I talk about is my 30-minute challenge, where I'll take an image and give myself 30 minutes to do something cool with it. And at the end of 30 minutes, I either have something cool or I don't. And that was one of those cases. I was like, all right, I'm going to take this image back. And I just took the one shot. You know, a lot of photographers will take several shots.
You took 30 of them.
So at the time, I'm thinking, I'm gonna take one shot, and if I can't make something cool out of it, then it's just a dead idea. So that's what I did. I took the one shot, went back to my room, and did it in 30 minutes. It actually came out pretty good.
You had to show everyone.
Yeah.
And all of us are going,
You know who loved it most? Winston over at Adobe.
Yes.
I showed it to him, and he's just like, when did you do this? I'm like, just did it in my room. He's just like.
But that's what's neat because, again, I mean, as a photographer, you could go so far with the things you want.
Yeah.
And then if you want to get into more of the creative side, this is where all these other classes. And you've never been one to boast and say I'm the world's greatest photographer.
No, and that's what I was going to say is that I am first an artist and designer. My degree is in illustration. I went to Ringling down in Sarasota. So I learned traditional media up until my 4th year at Ringling was when I was first introduced to Photoshop, and that was Photoshop 2.0.
No layers.
So, but I found it early, even then, how important photography was going to be if I was going to be a Photoshop expert. So, if you're a designer, and you're a graphic designer, and you're strictly studying design, get some photography in there. Even if it's not part of your curriculum, make it part of it. Get in there and actually learn, even if it's on your own learning it. Learn photography. It's only going to make you a better designer. Because, here's another where, I'm just going to go off a little. I went a little bit over time here. I'm just going to say, here's where it helps me. It doesn't just help you with shooting, with photography and shooting stuff for your designs. It also helps you in the computer. I am better at 3D in Photoshop because of what I know about photography, because there are things like virtual cameras. They still operate on the principles of lenses, and you have to know the wide and different types of lenses and things like that. That translates into the digital realm when you're working with 3D. So my knowledge of photography helped in helping me understand that. So it's all connected in all these different, we're all doing visual media. We're all trying to get to the same place. We all just have a different way of getting there. But the more avenues you have available to get there, the better you're off you're going to be. So that's what that's my parting thought for the day. So.
Hey, look who's going to be here for the 5th time.
What? I don't know who that is.
We've met him before.
Oh, okay.
JRY and fam -1.
5th Photoshop World. That's awesome.
Yep. So it's his 5th Photoshop World. He can't wait.
I remember my 5th one. It was
years ago.
I don't know how many years ago I am.
But it's neat, and make sure you come by and say hi. But it's neat because, again, if you've been to more than one Photoshop World, then you know what to expect. And it's neat because then the new people coming in kind of like take them under your wing and say, hey, guess what? These are the classes. And that's the other thing we used to do. So let's say there's 5 classes I definitely want to go to. But I can't go to these classes because I'm attending the other ones. What we would do is Ross, Kabasi, and the rest of us, we'd all get together and say, okay, you take this class, you take this class, you take this class, and then we'd split up, all take the classes, and then at night, we'd all meet up, and we'd share notes back and forth, and say, what did you learn, what did you learn? And
you know what I will say, if there's one bummer about becoming an instructor at Photoshop World, is that I couldn't attend sessions I wanted to, because I was teaching my own. This is a running joke that me and Bert always had, is that when's your session? It's like, it's this time. It's like, oh, I have one at the same time. We never could go to each other's sessions because we were always teaching at the same time. So that's one of the kind of little pitfalls there. I mean, but the good thing is you've got the workbook with all the notes, so it's the next best thing. But just, you know what? If you have a friend that's going to a different class, just have them film it with their phone or something like that. So you didn't hear that from me. All right, we got to wrap it up. So back to the contest. You want to win those books, you can go to kelby1.com/webcast-contest. I think I said that right. Go in there and choose the grid and enter your name, email, and that enters you in. So comments, questions, jokes, whatever. We read them all. I don't. Our producers do. But be sure and do that. And of course, you'll get signed copies of this and Volume 1 and 2 of the Down and Dirty Tricks book. So, want to thank our in-house studio guests today. We've got a couple of guys right over here visiting our set today. Hey, guys. Glad you guys could make it in. And we want to thank you guys for tuning in, learning about Photoshop World. Hope to see you there. Of course, myself and Vanelli will be there among the many others. Find out more information, of course, at PhotoshopWorld.com. Vanelli, any party thoughts? Where can people find out more about you and what you do?
Well, I've been writing a lot for Photo Focus. So we have a couple new books. A lot of us are getting together, and we're writing a lot of different books and stuff.
Sure.
And so that's kind of neat. And Photo Focus has been kind of my platform. And because of Rich Harrington, I met him at Photoshop World.
Right. Yep.
But we were real good friends first. And then after the years, he said, hey, I want you to start writing for me. And it just started taking off. So most of my days are spent traveling with them to London or to Vegas, and different places. So it's kind of cool that it's kind of taken its own entity now. And I'm able to do the stuff that I absolutely love and the audience that we have, which is awesome.
Yeah. The travel's always fun, of course, too. So excellent. All right. So be sure to find out more about him on there. Me, you can find me. I'm at CoreyPS3D, and that's at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So be sure to find me. It's all the same handle on all those. So be sure to find out more. And again, check out more information on my book and other things that I've got going on those channels as well. So anything else to add?
That's it. Hey, and congratulations again on your book.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much.
Great birthday.
Very excited. I'm more excited that it's done than anything. Been working on it forever, it seems like. But we want to thank you guys for tuning in to The Grid today. We'll see you guys next time. And until then, take care.
See you later.
Bye.